Hi everyone, guys. Today I'm gonna talk with you about clean development mechanism, the main question that we ask ourselves today is it a good for many people or just a revenue for a few? That's a presentation that is inspired by an essay I did when I was 21, so during my bachelor studies. This is something that is pretty linked with the 2030 agenda on sustainable development goals, and in particular to the objective number 13 on climate action. Why is it so linked with the objective number 13? Because it is also linked with the existence of a carbon emission market. Let me just give you a premise. That's just an introduction. It is pretty different from a critic. I think to not have enough instruments, enough tools in order to judge, to make final judgments on the issue. So let me just start by exposing you the contents of today. First of all, I will provide you the core elements and introduce you to the main elements of clean development mechanism. Then we talk something about history. And so, what are the main steps to produce the so-called carbon emission market? And so, the clean development mechanism as a mitigation practice inside this market. Third, we will talk about the critical points on carbon emission market and on clean development mechanism. In the fourth part of this presentation, we talk about the role of clean development mechanism for local development and for sustainable and inclusive development. Lastly, we will conclude. So let's just start by saying that it exists a carbon emission market all over the world where industries buy and sell carbon emission permits. If some of you doesn't know this existence, just take it for granted for 5 or 10 minutes and let just think that inside this market exists a mitigation practice that's called clean development mechanism based on the fact that industries and the most developed countries of the world pay cash in order to finance projects in order that will reduce their carbonic footprint in the world level and will be able to continue polluting inside their industries. So how does it work, this clean development mechanism? The most developed countries and industries can finance mitigation projects in less developed countries in order to reduce their carbonic footprint and in order to have carbonic permits to continue polluting inside their home. These mitigation projects consist mainly in reforestation, water sanitation, renewable energy, and many other types of projects. But there's a question point. The most developed countries have carbon limits to respect, while the developing countries where these projects are financed do not have any carbon limit. So we ask ourselves, why does it happen? In order to answer this question, we have to turn back to the history, and in particular to Stockholm 1972. This is an important date because here in Stockholm, in this year, the first important conference on climate change was held. And in particular, but for the first time, the United Nations so-called triple vision was promoted. This vision was based on the idea that environmental sustainability would have been produced only with economic and social sustainability inside a country. So after this first conference, there are many other conferences, but didn't produce any important result till 20 years later. In Rio, in 1992, there's an important conference where the first important convention on climate change was ratified by 155 countries. This is the so-called UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This is an important convention which improve the work, the employment of the single countries that ratified this convention in discussing about climate change. From this date, many other important conferences were held across the world. This is in Rio. This is an important year because from Rio, many COP, the so-called COP, would have been taken yearly, annually across the globe. An important date is Kyoto 1997. This is the COP number 3, where the first important agreement between the country was signed, and this is the protocol. The protocol was signed by 165 countries and published in the 11th December of the same year. But let's have a look on the main points of this Kyoto Protocol. And we have to say that it's going to expire after in the end of this year. So at the start, when the protocol was signed, the countries agree on the idea that before 2020, at least the top 55 countries emitters all over the world would have ratified a new agreement. This is in part happened in reality thanks to the Paris Agreement, but it is something different from what expected in 1997. So another important point to the Kyoto 1997 was that established and identified 41 Annex 1 countries that would have had to reduce their carbonic emission. And these Annex 1 countries consist in West European, East European, but also Japan, USA, other countries like Canada, and many other advanced countries that have the most important impacts in terms of carbonic footprint in 1997. We have to say that this target of 5.2% has never been reached by a lot of these Annex 1 countries. But another important group of countries that was identified was the group of Annex 2 countries that was made up of the most industrialized countries of the group Annex 1, so the Annex 1 minus the East European countries. These type of countries would have to finance emission reduction also in other countries. What are some of the critical points of this Kyoto Protocol? An arguable point is that developing countries as China and India, that nowadays consist of more than 3 billion people by alone, haven't any limit in terms of carbonic emissions. But this now is more clear to justify. We have to remind us to the Conference of Stockholm of 1972, in which was established the so-called United Nations Triple Vision, according to which in countries in which there isn't any economic and social sustainability, environmental sustainability cannot be produced. So still nowadays is fairly questionable the level of economic and social sustainability in these two countries, even if China is very industrialized and more advanced than many other most developed countries in certain ways. So the main output of Kyoto 1997 was that Annex 1 countries have to respect a limit of carbon emission units. How these countries can respect this limit? There are two ways that were identified in these years after Kyoto 1997. The first one is that the Annex 1 countries can buy carbon emissions from other Annex 1 countries that are less industrialized, so the East European countries mainly, and this produced the existence of the carbon emission market. Then the second solution that is directly linked with the first is to finance mitigation projects in developing countries by obtaining emission credits. that can be sold also in the carbon emission markets. And this produce the mitigation practice that we are gonna introduce today. That's the clean development mechanism. So we have to say that the clean development mechanism still nowadays involves thousands of projects, some like 10,000 projects all over the world, and in particular in developing countries. And it works thanks to specialized evaluation agencies that have to certify the reduction of emissions done thanks to these projects. But you have to say that there are some critical points inside this framework that are well recognized all over the world on carbon emission markets and clean development mechanisms. First of all, you have to register, guys, nowadays a failure of carbon emission markets. And this is a substantial failure. In fact, for example, in 2013, at least 2 billion of carbon emission credits remain unsold. Further, countries like China and India that nowadays have an important weight on the economic of the world refuse, don't accept this carbon emission market, and in particular it's pure Western logic. So sorry, we have to go back. And the second critical point is related to the fact that many academicians and researchers, but also lobbyists of the sector, think that carbon emission market is only a way for big corporations to continue polluting in peace. The third part is that many agencies that evaluate the clean development mechanism are national. So haven't really an unbiased evaluation of the benefits of the project, and the consequence is that it's estimated that at least 20 and maybe also the 70% of the projects that are done under the clean development mechanism are overestimated in their benefits, and in particular don't really have a positive impact in carbon emission reduction. But today, guys, I want to also say that this type of projects can have an important role for the local development. Some of the thousands of projects have a real contribution for reaching not only the Sustainable Development Goal number 13 on climate action, but many others of the 2030 agenda. In this presentation, in particular, I want to focalize on the role of gold standard. Gold standard is not a monetary regime, guys. This is something else. Gold standards is an international evaluation agency, and maybe the most important all over the world, that evaluates across many countries this type of projects. Gold Standards was founded by WWF in 2003, and to date it has monitored and still monitors 1.8 thousand projects in more than 80 developing countries, and these projects are managed and controlled by about 100 NGOs. The bulk of these projects is made in Latin America, South Asia, Africa, but also China, that's still considered a developing country. For being full of information, just visit the website of Gold Standard, the goldstandard.org, and you will be full of information, in particular by visiting the impact registry section. So today I want to just give you 3 examples of the projects that are evaluated by Gold Standard, and I want to just underline, guys, that these are projects that have been already finished, already handed. This is a presentation of 2 years ago, so you will not find them in the impact registry of the website of Gold Standard. The first example that I wanna mention is the reforestation project that was done in Togo and ended in 2018. This project involved more than 1,000 hectares in the districts of South Iberian, and so it's based on the reforestation of this important area. And by the way, it is important to fight and to pursue for the Sustainable Development Goal number 13 on climate action. Another important point of the project is that it provides job placement and training services to the workers that are involved by the project, and the workers are locals. This training workshop are accompanied by training on soft skills and in particular on hygienic practices for adults. And lastly, but not least, the project also financed the building of some schools in the local area for the children. So it is not only important for the Sustainable Development Goal 13, but also for the 8 for improving decent work and economic growth in the local area, for having better health thanks to better hygienic practices, and for improving the quality of education thanks to the building of schools. Let us move to the example number 2 on the water sanitation in Uganda. This project was ended in 2018 and was based on the provision and the supply of more than 6,000 clean water dispensers for more than about 9 million people that live near the Kyoga Lake, that is one of the main important lakes of the east parts of Africa, and in particular of Uganda. So the project is very important for reaching the number 6 of the Sustainable Development Goals on clean water and sanitation. But by the way, the project reduced also the incidence of illnesses like diarrhea by the 40%. And this is very important, guys, because in countries like Uganda, before the project was held, at least 23,000 kids under 5 years old die every year due to this type of illness. Another important outcome of the project was that about 47 tons per year of carbonic emission were estimated to be reduced per each dispenser. So you can imagine the bulk of carbonic emission that can be saved. Why does it happen? Because before the project was held, the only solution for the bulk of the people living in this area was to boil the water in order to depurate it and to clean it. So in order to boil, you have also to use firewood. And so to fire the wood you pick up. So now there is less firewood to be picked up by the people living in the area. And so also less domestic work. It's estimated to be of 1 hour per day. So 7 hours per week of domestic work are saved. And this is very important also for women empowerment, because you know that domestic work is mainly done by women, not only on advanced countries, but in particular to developing countries. So the project contributed not only to the Sustainable Development Goal number 6, but also to the 3 on better health by reducing diarrhea, to the number 13 by reducing the carbonic emission, and to the 5 for promoting gender equality by reducing the domestic work. Let us move to the example number 3. This is based on the building of biodigesters in the India state of Karnataka. This is a project that is still going. That was started in 2009, but it has produced yet many important results. In particular, in the area of Bajepalli, that is made up of 20,000 people. This project was based on the building of more than 11.5 thousand biogas digesters for home heating, and so is estimated to reduce carbonic emission by 32,000 tons per year. And so, by the way, it is important to contribute the enrichment of the Sustainable Development Goal number 13 on climate action, but also we can say that it contributes positively to the number 7 on improving the clean energy use. Another important output of this project was that people using these biogas digesters for home heating use less smoke, use less fire at home inside their walls of the home, so have less smoke to inhale inside their domestic walls. By the way, there is also less firewood to pick up, and so less domestic work, and estimating the less in about some like 2 hours per day of less domestic work. So not only to the 13 and 7, but also to the Sustainable Development Goal number 3, this project contributed positively, and on the 5 for gender equality. This is an objective that is also promoted in another way. In fact, guys, this project also aims at empowering women by providing them training workshop to become managers of the project. In particular, 284 women have been trained to become managers in the building of these biodigesters, and in particular in managing their husband and the masculine hands in working to build up these biogas digesters. So there are two ways of empowering women. One in terms of domestic work, and one other in controlling the husbands and being in a superior position, in an upper position in this project with respect to the husbands. Then another important point of the project was that in this project, people having biogas digesters in their home can have the opportunity to sell their carbon estimating reduced credits for the next 12 years. So the project is also important, definitely, to contribute to the objective number 8 on improving the employment and the economic growth of the local area. So let us move to the conclusion, guys. I think don't want to do a critique. I just want to have a general vision, a general view on what I showed till now, and I say you that I think it's important an active participation in these cases of analysis. First of all, it's important that in this type of projects that are promoted by the Clean Development Mechanism, like in all the other projects of international cooperation, it's important to involve the local people, and so the local stakeholders, the local community. There is an important point to say that the local culture can be very different from the one of the funders, and so from the interest of the funders, people in the local area, in these rural areas of developing countries, can have perceptions and concepts of life that are really different, and can perceive some tools promoted by the project in very different ways from the ideas and the starting interest of the funders. Another important point is that active participation of the locals is also important to identify, in order to identify eventually corruption inside the institutions. We have to remind us to the fact that 3/4 so that 75% of the institutions in developing countries are in some ways corrupted. So the active participation is also important to avoid that corruption of the institution can become a burden for the goodness of the project. Then active participation is also important at a macro level. And so, guys, I think that in discussing on the team, it's important that there is more political participation, more international political participation, in order to avoid that such good outputs as the one of some of the clean development mechanism projects are not just an exception, but also can become a rule. So Your participation is important too. I told you guys that this is a PowerPoint presentation that takes inspiration on a paper of 2017. So improve it, improve this presentation, improve my results, try to add something more recent. And another thing I ask you and I suggest you is to comment, share your experience or knowledge in this topic of study also here in the comments below. By the way, I say you thank you for your attention.